You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And we are officially in my new shop.
Oh,
what do you think of
nice.
That? Yay.
Yeah, we came up, the new house is still being built, but we were able to kind of relocate ourselves up to this general vicinity, and I've been doing some planning and trying to get it. They just painted the baseboards. You can probably see on the background. Still got to paint the walls and stuff, but yes, I am literally sitting on a desk in my shop without anything in the background, but hopefully in the next couple of months it'll be full of RC-related items. So I'm excited about that. And we just got back from the Best in the West Jet Rally, as you can tell. I'm, wearing all the swag that I got. So I'm excited about that. And you can probably see in the background that there's a new toy in town. So before we get into all of that, though, let's hear a word from our...
"3D Aeroventures, adding fun to the RC hobby, one layer at a time."
Feeling weak and powerless? Sounds to me like you need A-Power batteries. When someone needs the best, they always choose the A-Team. A-Power batteries. Get on the web and get yours today.
Our sponsors. Welcome back to the Park Flyer Podcast. And yes, we just got back from the Best in the West Jet Rally, which is not really Park Flyer stuff, but it's still fun to talk about. And it was an amazing weekend.
There's parks nearby, right?
Hang on. There's nothing nearby. No, it's in the middle of
nowhere.
You passed a park on the way there? I mean, maybe?
I did. I passed the park on the way
Okay.
there. So
Let's just say there's lots of room to fly whatever you want out there. A kite, paper airplane.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
747, whatever.
Yeah, paper
Paramotor?
Paramotors with a
Paramotor? You could have probably flown the paramotor out there. There was plenty of room. The event's held annually, and it's in Buttonwillow, California, and it's the big jet rally for the West Coast. And I went not last year because of COVID, but the year prior, and we had a load of fun. And this time I was all excited. We took the camper out there, the motorhome. We stayed on the property, so we were there, pretty much 24/7. I got to see a lot of the guys that missed me the last time, so it was pretty exciting. And through all of that, I got a couple of pictures, kind of a crappy video on my phone, and that was it. I took all the podcast stuff and had it with me, and never once. I was so busy talking and flying and doing all those kind of things that I never really kind of got around to recording anything. So you're just going to have to base I know, right? You're just going to have to base it all on my recollection of what we did. So anyway, it was fun, and it was good to see everybody. So, but it's a huge event, and there were 210 registered pilots.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. And, they didn't have it last year because of COVID, so I think this year people kind of, were like, hey, we really want to come out, and there was a lot. I mean, they were flying 6 people from the minute the sun came up till just about dusk. And so it was pretty exciting. Now the event's all week long. So a lot of guys went out there on, it's Sunday to Sunday kind of. And there were plenty of people with campers and, motorhomes and RVs and fifth wheels that were all, camping there. Everybody had a tent. not a little pup tent, but a big, event tent that you see for like weddings and, parties and that kind of thing. And so we rented, everybody gets to rent one. If you want one, you don't have to, you can, stage off the main area, but, most people get tents. And so it's a 20 by 20, I think, or 10 by 20. And, there were 3 of us. So it was me and Barry and Gary Thompson kind of went. We didn't go the whole week. We actually showed up on Thursday and stayed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and came Sunday. So,
Well, nice, buddy.
but yeah, it was really a great time, and I'm excited. So
how was the drive out?
kind
Do
of
you have any
discuss it.
mayhem or craziness that happened on the drive out?
We did. The drive from Phoenix to Buttonwillow lasts about probably about 8 to 10 hours. Just depends on the route that you take. And so we just crossed over, or we're just getting into Blythe, California, and we came around the corner, and literally just minutes before we hit that corner, on the opposite side was a humongous wreck. And there were only about probably maybe 25 trucks lined up at a stop. So it literally had just occurred, and it wasn't a really good wreck. There was lots of stuff strewn out, and it looked like a tractor trailer had jackknifed, and the cab exploded. So the cab was just like ripped in half. It looked like something, kind of blossomed out of it. And underneath the cab was a little Prius. So
Oh wow.
we're pretty sure there was
What's
some
left of a
fatalities
Prius.
involved in there. Yeah,
Um,
it was pretty brutal.
What does a good wreck look like?
I
Pillows.
don't think there's anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Pillows.
you said it wasn't a good wreck. I was like, what does a good wreck look like? I mean,
No. But that was kind of the start of the day. We talked about it pretty much all the way. So en route, of course, Barry, my friend Barry that flies jets with me, he basically bought a new jet, and we were supposed to swing by and pick it up on the way, and so it was just a little way, just
yeah, it's like
just
5
a
minutes
little
off
bit out
the
of the way.
path.
5 minutes out of the way. 5 minutes out of the
Okay.
way. And in
Good.
California, there is no such thing as 5 minutes out of the way.
Oh,
So,
Kind of like here in Texas when people go down yonder. It's just down yonder.
yeah, down yonder. It's just down yonder. Yeah, down yonder could be, another 2 hours. So
right.
We ended up going to Van Nuys, California, which
Oh, no.
was a little further out. Yeah, a little further out of the way than our route was supposed to take us.
Mhm.
And when we got there, it was really cool. We got to meet a couple of guys. I'm going to give a shout out to Anthony. He's a school teacher, and he was there chatting with us. And he does he promotes the RC, or actually aviation, through remote control flying, and to his students. So his students are in kind of that engineering technology type school. And anyway, he was kind of probing Barry, because Barry flies professionally and I fly professionally, and so he had talked to Barry about doing some video work with his students and everything, and so I'm listening to him, and I'm like, so your students build an RC airplane for the semester, and then they go fly it? And he goes, yes. And I go, hold on a second, because believe it or not, I had T-shirts in the camper with us, and so
That's a surprise.
I that's not too much of a surprise. I threw them in there because I was cleaning out the trailer, and I won't really go into that story. That was kind of a whole different deal. Save it for another podcast. But I basically put all my stuff in there. Barry came in there, took all my stuff, put all his stuff, and said, we don't need your stuff. So I loaded all my stuff for nothing. We were just going to use everything he had. And so anyway, I had this box full of T-shirts, and so I thought, well, I'll just throw it, in the motorhome. So I threw it in there, and I remembered it when I was talking to this guy. So I told him, I said, well, I run a podcast, and it's called the Park Flyer Podcast, and I said, we'd love to, kind of interact with you. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So he took down our number and has actually emailed us. at parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com. You kind of saw that. And so he's really excited about kind of getting to us. I gave him some T-shirts, and I gave one to him, and then I gave him a couple for his students. And I told him, I said, look, there's always a student that excels. So when you get back, reach out to me at our Park Flyer Podcast Gmail account, and we can try to, do something, or maybe we can get on a video conference together and kind of chat with them as Park Flyer staff. And if anything, I can at least talk to him. So he's really excited that I'm a real pilot, an airline guy, an instructor guy, an aerobatic guy, RC guy. He's like, oh my gosh, your credentials are really long, and he thinks it'll be really good for the kids. So I think Barry's going to do something with him.
So Mike, it's really interesting because I think we've been doing this podcast for 5 years, right?
6.
6, yeah. And I mean, you've been able to keep that whole lie about you being a pilot and everything going for this whole time. I was like, it's pretty cool that you can really make that happen.
Yeah, that is. Oh, goodness. Now you're going to get me in trouble. Well, maybe one day I'll be in uniform instead of
right. Yeah, what is it? You guys keep giving me grief. It's like, you've never really flown your paramotor. I've never seen a picture of you with your shoes or anything. Like, how do we even know it's you taking the picture? It could be somebody else.
Could never tell. You're so far away. Whenever you go, that was me, and then the thing happened.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that's right. See the gray? The guy in the gray? That's me. Yeah. It's fair.
Well, anyway. Yeah. So anyway, if Anthony's listening to this podcast, we're looking forward to kind of reaching out and
that'll be good
with his class. It'd be kind of cool. He's like, oh, if you ever come over to LA, man, I'll come get you and you can come talk to my class. So he was super excited, and it's always good to see guys that are excited and very knowledgeable. So he flies jets as well. So his class builds more like Park Flyer stuff, but. They have I think he said they had 2 projects going right now for this semester. At the end of the semester, they'll get to fly it. So it's kind of exciting for those kids. They learn about aerodynamics and about propellers, and they learn about engines, and they learn about controls. It's really kind of neat. So, and he's obviously a science teacher, so he's able to kind of keep his kids engaged. So hopefully they'll, I told him, I said, well, have your kids, spool up the podcast. We talk about everything from, gluing yourself to the table to, props and the type of, flying we do, all the way to jets and paramotor stuff. So I said it's kind of the 3 of us kind of get together and just kind of, chit chat, and whatever comes up. So he's like, oh yeah, I'll have to check it out. So hopefully he'll be a new listener, and his class will tune in, and when I find out that they do, we'll give them a shout out.
I gotta ask. So anyway, did you hand out any cards? The thousands of cards that we have?
No. Sorry.
It kills me. You guys never carry any cards when you go to these events.
Hey.
Well, you did this last.
Never. It's pretty strong. Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Wait. I'll be very clear. So far for this year, AK Mike is the winner.
And unless we have an event anytime soon, I think I'm clearly going to exit the winner as well.
I mean, you show up for an event, you recorded everything for 3 days, put out your podcast. Wonderful. We send the leader, the true leader out, and we get wah, wah.
I was busy.
We get a plane in the background. That's all we get.
I know, right?
Mike, quite frankly,
I had cards with me. I just forgot to hand them out.
Frankly, Mike, if I hadn't crashed my plane in the front end of that show, I probably would have been the same thing. I would have had no recordings. I would have had because I'd have been busy flying stuff, but I didn't have any planes to fly. So,
it means it's a whole lot different, when you're busy doing, actually flying or spotting and these things. It's one thing to go out and fly for 15 or 20 minutes. With a, park flyer or a couple of minutes and, or have 2 or 3 airplanes you can kind of fly. But these things are, 3 minutes to 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, and then you're refueling and back to the, the pits. And this event is very big. I mean, I wish I did take some photographs and they're, we can hopefully post them on our Facebook page, but the event is very large. And so walking from one place to the other is it takes a while. It takes a while. And then all the RV stuff is down at the other end. So if you had to go to the RV, it was like, okay, well, you got to make an appointment to go down there. By the time you got down there, walked back your stuff, everything, something already happened.
So I heard that you guys didn't get a good, so at the Electric Festival, we have primo, parking because we're like the first guys there. So we're like right there. We walk out. We're right in the middle of everything. The camper or whatever we have is always right there. We're at the primo spot. So I take it this time, since it started on Sunday, you didn't get there till Thursday.
Correct.
You weren't exactly in the primo spot, were you?
No, we were at the very end of the line. So yeah, we were literally. As a matter of fact, I have some friends that I fly with and actually work with. They're coworkers of mine, but they fly as well. And I saw him and I said, "Hey, thanks a lot for saving me a spot." And he looked at me and goes, "Did you ask me to save you a spot?" And I go, "Well, no." He goes, "Then I didn't even know you were coming. So how was I supposed to save you a spot if I didn't even know?" And I was like, "Okay, touche. I should have called and said, 'Hey, save me a spot. I'm coming down on Thursday.'" But they were kind of cool. They made their own little camp. Put all the little campers and motorhomes and everything in a little square. So they had like a tent and the awnings touched. It was kind of cool. We kind of went and hung out with them for a little bit. But we were literally, because we came in at the very end, and they had already been running for 4 days already. So we were at the very, very tail end of the parking lot. And
I probably wouldn't have flown very much there, Mike, because I would get out to the side and be like, "Oh crap! I left my screwdriver in the thing," and then I'd have to go back out there. Now it'd take me a half hour to get there and get back, and then I'd be back.
Yeah,
and
funny.
Oh, you know what? Like crescent wrench. Damn it! I did it again. Because I couldn't bring all my tools. That would be silly, and I would always forget something. So I would have.
Barry brought enough tools. Barry brought enough tools to start a hardware store. And he really did. I mean that. I'd have to show a picture of the inside of my trailer, but I mean, there was so many tools in there. You could have built.
Someone mistake you for a Snap-on dude or something.
Yeah, they probably did. Mistook us for tool salesmen, but it was actually really good. We got we didn't get the primo place for the motorhome, and we didn't get it really for the tent either. We were on the third row back, so we had a dirt floor, not a cement floor. So a lot of guys that are on the first and second rows, they actually have because it's an airport. It's an actual airport. So there's taxiways that have asphalt, and so they get the asphalt section, and we got the dirt section in the back. So it was a little more difficult for us to kind of not stay as clean as we should. Everything was dusty, and so we kind of tried to keep our entrance in and out of the tent to a minimum. So, but Barry had his head buried in his airplane for 3 days. I mean, he was pretty much, down there wrenching away trying to get this thing to fly. And what I said earlier about mentioning, that you had to walk this half a mile to the motorhome. When we got there, it was the craziest thing. Everybody was on scooters, these little e-bikes. And it was like people were going by zipping all over. And I was like, what the heck, man? And so, they drove up and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Where did you get this bike?" And they're like, "Oh, well, a lot of these guys were at Kentucky Jets. And while they were at Kentucky Jets, it was even a further walk. And somebody, my friend John, the other guy that I said, you should have saved me a spot. He works with me. He bought these little e-bikes. And they're called Jetson e-bikes. You can buy them at Costco. Anyway, he wound up getting. I know, right? And meet George Jetson. That's just the name brand. But anyway, they're fast little guys. They fold up, so everybody can put them in their trailer or under the camper, motorhomes, whatever, and they stay charged all day long, and they go 15 miles an hour. So he pulled up to the tent, and I was like, I got to go to I got to go out and pick something up out of the motorhome. And he's like, "Oh, well, here, take the bike." So it was like, I was there, and I came back. And I was like, okay, that was the coolest thing ever. So next thing I know, I'm texting my wife, "Hey, man, these e-bikes are awesome. We should get some just for the, because we travel in the motorhome, and we could throw them underneath and have them to go around." So one of the guys stopped by, and I said, "Hey, where did you happen to get the e-bikes?" He's like, "Oh, man, we were at Kentucky Jets, and these guys had them." And so we found out they were from Costco. When we got back to Phoenix, Arizona had none. They had 0. Matter of fact, the company is even they were so popular that the company's even out of them. They're out of stock. Everything's back ordered. Well, during the Best in the West, somebody said, well, "Where'd you get these?" And they said Costco. So they went into town to the Costco and found out that they had 2 pallets of these e-bikes. So the guy literally bought like 7 of them, and he's pushing them out, and they're not cheap, but he bought a bunch, and so now his kids have them, and everybody. So like everybody found out, and they're all running to Costco at the end of the day to buy these e-bikes. So I told Gary, I was like, crap, we're going to get left out again if they have none of these. And so he's like, here, take my truck. And so I jumped in the truck, went down there, and they had 6 left, and I got 3 of them. So I bought one for for me and my wife, and then one for Gary. So it was fun. We jumped on that, and then for the rest of the time we were there, we had transportation to go, to one side of the event to the other side, and we didn't have to walk, so it was a lot better. So when I came home on Sunday, I got everything up. I was cleaning it all out. I pulled those boxes out, and I put one together. And my wife comes in and goes, "Oh, is this that little e-bike thing that you bought?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And so she said, "Oh, let me try it out." So she pulled out of the driveway the next, the morning, because I put it together that next morning. And I didn't see her the rest of the morning. She came back.
Yeah, I think I was talking to you on the phone, wasn't I?
You were. And we were talking on the phone, and I'm like, dude, I don't know where my wife went. She left the neighborhood, and she's probably laying in a ditch somewhere. And then here she comes, ringing in, riding up on that bike. And I just was like, where did you go? She goes, oh, I went all over the neighborhood. That thing's fun. So I scored a bunch of points. I scored a bunch of kudo points for my spouse for getting this little e-bike.
Nice.
So it'll be good for our property here. We can kind of ride around. It's not really an off-road bike, but it's still pretty fun. So I wound up putting mine together so we could go ride. And anyway, it's got pedals on it, so you can pedal it, if you need to. But it's pretty quick. And about 24 hours later, I started getting all these emails from Jay about how to customize it, make it go faster, putting the lights on it, LEDs. These guys have, there's.
You got to pimp your ride out, man. What are you talking about?
It was pretty funny. So, but anyway, back to the RV. Back to the Best in the West stuff. So, but yeah, it was fun, and lots of really big airplanes this year. I was really shocked because in years previous, people bring everything from something really small to like a little jet, all the way to the supersized jet. And the biggest jet there was a yellow aircraft SR-71, and it was 16 and a half feet long.
Yeah.
And we missed the flight because we got there too late. We arrived around 3 o'clock on Thursday because we had to stop off in Van Nuys for 2 hours. But had we got there at noon when we were supposed to be there, he flew it. And everybody was just amazed. So I missed the flight on it. And when he landed, he hit a crack in the runway, and that SR-71's kind of fragile nose gear. So it ripped the nose gear out of it. So he was spending time repairing.
So was it realistic? Did the fuel leak out of the wings like the other real one did?
No.
Okay.
But it was realistic. It had all the panels, the rivets, the way the tails were, the everything, the way the front of the motor looks. It was pretty impressive, and it was a 2-turbine SR-71. So I'll throw a photo up on our.
Yeah, like I said, when you said the photo, I knew it was kind of hard to tell how big it was because there was nobody standing in the picture. So I didn't know whether that it was 16 feet long or the table was 6 foot or 4 foot table with it on it. So that was the only thing that kind of threw me off when I saw that. And when you said it was 16 feet long, I was like, whoa, that's pretty impressive. But it's kind of
he was in the next room when he took the picture, so it could be in the frame.
I was. I had to go to the next. I had to go to the next 10 over just to get the whole thing in there. It was sitting on top of. If you go to our Facebook page and look at it, it's sitting on top of a 10-foot table, and it hangs off, like 4 feet, either side of it, whatever.
That's awesome.
It was pretty impressive. The other airplanes that were really impressive were the A-10s. So they must have had like 4 or 5 of these 1/5 scale A-10s out there, which let me tell you, watching those things fly, It was very difficult. I had to go hide my wallet because that was just like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing to watch that thing fly. But then they would bring it in, because when it's flying, it looks spectacular. But then they would bring it in and taxi it in, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'd have to get a whole nother truck and trailer just to haul that thing because it's so big. It's like literally the size of my pickup truck. And, it's got like a 10 or 12 foot wingspan, and it stands up like the tail of it's like, I'm 6'1", and the tail of it's like right to my chin. And the dudes are pushing, it takes two guys to kind of maneuver it out of there. And, but it was so awesome to watch. And there were two or three of them that all took off together, and they were doing that kind of low altitude stuff. It was pretty cool. So anyway, you guys are giggling. What's so funny?
Oh, just A-10's a great plane. I mean, let's face it.
Well, I was just thinking if you do get one, now you have a little e-bike to help, taxi the plane out. Beep, beep, beep. You don't have to push it. You just get on the e-bike and you're just...
I'll have to just buy an RC tug and then just tug it out. So
yeah, there you go.
No, but I took my A10, my little my 80 millimeter A10, because normally we go out in the mornings, and since we were there, I was all prepared. I was like, oh man, I'm going to take my A10 and I'm going to go out and fly that in the morning, and then I'll go fly these turbine jets in the afternoon, and so I was all excited, and I took my batteries and everything, my big battery charger, and I got it all set up. And when we were at the electric festival, somebody packed up and didn't put the cord. I'm not mentioning any names, but somebody, whoever that may be, because it was one of us, it could have been me. I did not, or somebody didn't put it back in the case. So I got it all the way to California. I had no way to turn it on.
Oh boy!
So I couldn't charge any of my batteries.
Oh, that sucks.
And that's not true. I could have charged it with someone else's charger.
Why didn't you find out nobody had a power cord for you to be able to use either?
No, they had power cords, but it's like a computer power cord.
Yeah.
And all the ones to their charger had the three, but it had on it. It's more like a something different. But
yeah.
Anyway, I was pretty sad. I could have used someone else's charger, but it just would have taken too long. I mean, obviously I had the big supercharger, and it could do 8 batteries all at once. And these guys are doing 2-cell batteries, so their chargers are really small. And in order to take all of that energy to do mine, so I left it in the trailer. I was like, you know what? I'll have fun flying the turbine. So we ripped out the L-39, put it together, and I went and flew that all weekend. So it was fun.
That's a good plane to fly too.
Not about that. It was, and it's the Global Jet, Global Jet. Anyway, you can find it on globaljetclub.com, and it's the little L-39. It's just slightly bigger than the Motion RC one, and it takes a little 80 turbine in it. It's only about this big, but it is a riot to fly. I mean, the thing is just super fast. And the other guy, Gary, he had the T-45 Goshawk with the little 80 in it as well. Mm-hmm. So it was fun to watch him go zipping around, because he's small compared to some of these big ones. And the L-39 is too. Even though it's bigger than what we normally fly, right? They were the smallest ones.
Yeah. They're like, oh, look at that little baby airplane. It's so cute.
Or it's very, very far away.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, no, we kept it pretty close. So
bring that plane in closer. It's so far away.
I know, right? The other cool thing was that the Comp ARF guys were there, and they had their whole team there. So the Comp ARF guys, they did a demo, and it was amazing. They were flying the Mephisto, and they were flying the new. There's a new one out called the Rebel Max, and this Rebel Max has a huge turbine in it, like a 300 size turbine. And they were doing rolling circles with that thing a foot above the ground.
Wow.
Oh, that's impressive.
It was so impressive that I'm standing there with my phone, but I can't look away. Right? I'm supposed to be videotaping this for this podcast, but I'm like, I pull my phone up and I'm like, holy criminy, and both of the guys. It was actually it's the guy from here in my club. His name's Brian Mack, and he and his counterpart, his name is Spencer Norquist, and those two guys are tournament champion winners. So they've been kind of the long story short is they were sponsors for JR or they had sponsors from JR and another company. It was a 3D company, and that 3D company sold to CompArf. So now they're CompArf pilots because that company got bought.
Right.
So now they have access to all these jets, and so the owner of CompArf is like, hey man, we need to, get you guys to start demoing these jets. And so didn't take them very long to get their turbine waivers, but now they're going out there like it's a 3D airplane and just hucking this thing. And Spencer Norquist, he got the airplane hovering, and then the way the airplane, the Mephisto has a weird nose to it. It's long nose, looks like a dolphin, like Flipper.
Mm-hmm.
So he came down the runway and pitched it up and then started moving it like Flipper. So it was like, doing that whole walk in it where it would go forward and then back and then forward and back, forward and back. And then there were the bushes out there, and he would forward and back like a dolphin on the water with his tail, and then he would go up and over and then back down onto the ground, and because he was only like inches above the ground. So he would hop these little bushes. And it was pretty impressive to see. So I called Jay actually right after all that stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you got to come out here. You have to make the trip, because it's just, if you haven't gone to an event like that, it's definitely worth it, because you're just in awe of the quality, B, the talent, and just see the amazing things that you can see in an RC world that. They're doing some crazy, amazing things. So it's pretty good. It's pretty
cool.
So so the first day we kind of got there and set up, and then we went out and flew. I got a flight in after everything kind of settled down towards the end of the night, and then we had taco night, and so we all kind of cruised over there and had tacos, and then we all went back to the tent and kind of working on planes and trying to get our stuff, situated and meeting everybody and saying hello, and kind of called it quits at around midnight or so after everybody, kind of went in. And the next day we got up and, kind of went out and had breakfast burritos and we're ready to go and started flying, the airplanes while Barry was kind of working on his. And he was trying to get it, he bought this airplane and he wanted to fly it there. Mainly because it's the company that makes it was in the tent in front of us. So one of the guys that was in that tent was the original owner of that jet, and so he was able to kind of look it over and go test fly it and put it where it needs to be so that Barry could have it all set up for him.
Well, that's a good idea. So I can understand him wanting to do that while he's there.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Well, it just took him a little longer than I thought, because he started diving into it, and then he realized, oh man, this is not right. I want to change this, and so he's kind of cranking on it because he's trying to get it all. He had to put a new tank in it. He put his turbine in it. He had to put his receiver in it, his batteries in it. He had to make a little battery tray because he uses a different battery than the other guy did, and so it just became one of those things where he was constantly, had his head in this airplane, and we were making fun of him because everybody would be like, hey, didn't you come with Barry? And I'm like, yeah, he's got his head up the tailpipe of that airplane. And they would all start looking around, and sure enough, a couple of times it literally, he's got his head down and it's inside the airplane, and all you can see is his shoulders and his elbows, and I said, see, there you go, he's got his head up the tailpipe. Everybody would laugh, and but there was some good vendors there. Peter from Baja Hobbies was there. He had some products. Guess who else showed up at the jet event? I was quite surprised.
Who's that?
As Mr. Tim Hanstein from Northwest RC.
Oh,
showed
what?
Up with yeah. I think I caught him off guard. He wasn't expected to see me there. When he rounded the corner, he goes, hey. And I laughed. I was like, oh, come over to the dark side, have you? And he's like, mm-hmm. So he said it was his first time flying the jet, but obviously he had a turbine waiver. He wasn't on a buddy box. So
right.
I think he flew some before and got a waiver, but this was his first flight with this particular jet. So, but he did really, really well, and they were having a good time, and it was good to see him out. It's something other than because normally when I see Tim, he's behind the table,
right?
Doing,
or he's flying a demo.
Stuff. Yeah, he's flying demos or whatever, but mostly he's selling, or kind of working his business. And this wasn't a business trip for him. This was purely, pleasure of him to go out and have a good time. And it was good to see that he was able to.
Did he have to travel far? I don't remember. I don't think he didn't even run Washington.
He was at a different. He was down here for something else. There was something else that was going on, and he came down for the 3 days that we were in. So I don't think he has to travel too far because he lives in Oregon or Washington, I think. So. But he was either on his way or he didn't have a whole crew with him. I think there was one of the other guys that usually travels with him that was down there, but that wasn't like he showed up with his whole, all of the kids in tow, so to speak.
Right.
And, it wasn't that kind of event, so it wasn't like he had to drag a bunch of product down for everybody to look at. But yeah, so I saw him, and then who else was there? The BVM guys were there. They introduced this year a new F-15. It's a plug-and-play version. It is truly amazing. I had my F-15 there, and I did not fly it. I actually put it on the sale block. They have a little area on the flight line. I didn't sell it, but I put it out for sale to see if I could get any hits. And I did get someone that came in and was wanting to, kind of negotiate with it, but what he was wanting to do with it and what I was trying to do with it were two different things. And he wanted it for an EDF, and he wanted me to take everything out of it and just sell it in the airframe. And
what do you care if he wants to mount it on the wall? I mean, if he's going to pay your price, what do you care?
Well, if he would have paid the price, I would. He didn't want to pay the price. He wanted me to take everything out of it and then not pay for any of that stuff. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with a set of tanks that go for this airplane?
Right.
Who's going to buy it?
Right.
Those were very expensive Kevlar tanks, and I don't want to remove them because they're E6000 in there, and that means I'm having to, get my screwdriver and my knife and cut it all out while I'm standing there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not willing to do all that. I'd keep flying it before I, tore the whole thing apart and just gave him the frame. And somebody out there is interested because I had many people. As a matter of fact, the guy with the SR-71, Sean next door, his name is Sean Evans. He was the original distributor for Yellow Aircraft. So he was like, as soon as he saw my airplane, he walked up there and went, "Oh, I know this kit," And so we chatted about it, and I learned some history, and he was telling me all about it, and I was like, "Wow, this guy, he knew every kit that came out of the factory." So it was pretty cool to, have him kind of bring me up to speed and tell me what it was worth, what the good and the bad and the ugly of it was, and what I should expect and how did it fly. And I think he wanted me to go fly it, but it's one of those things when you put it up for sale, what happens?
Crasho.
Hey, I'm going to sell this. Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, oh crap, now I'm not selling it. So next weekend or next month, I think, is the jet rally here in actually it's not a jet rally, it's something else. Anyway, it's they had the 1/8th Air Force this weekend, and they've got something else. Maybe it is the jet rally for where we go at Superstition.
Yeah,
they're having their rally there next month. So
cool.
I'm going to take it up there and see if there's somebody interested in it. Mainly because, as you can see in the background, I got a new toy.
You have a new replacement.
There it is. I do.
One goes out, one comes in.
Scheme. That's about how it is. And I've flown the F-15 a bunch, and I really, really love it. But it is an older model, and it requires a little more maintenance. And the newer models, like this one back here, not so much maintenance. So they're newer, and that one there is showing its age and has a few love cracks in it. From flying or over G-ing it or whatever. But but I think it's time to let somebody else kind of
experience the love. I understand, Mike. You're a giving guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I am. So anyway, I think that night we went to dinner because they pretty much fed us every night. So that was a barbecue dinner, I think, and they had a raffle. So you could buy raffle tickets, and it was like a 50-50 or 5-1 or whatever. Anyway, I guess Gary went that afternoon and said, "Oh, I want some raffle tickets because there's some things out there on the table that I think I'd be interested in, and if I could get them, then that'd be fantastic." So she pulls the roll off because he said, "I'll take 5 tickets," and so I think they're $5 a piece or something. So she rips the roll off, and the roll ended, and it was 6 tickets. So she's like, "Just take that ticket, give me for 5, but I'm not going to sell one ticket because most everybody went and bought $25 or $30 or $40 or $50 worth. And what is she going to do with the end of the roll? She already had another roll ready to go. So she just said, "Here you go." Well, come to find out that was a winning ticket. The one that she gave him at the end of the roll was the one that they chose. And so anyway, she calls the number, and Gary's like, "You got to be kidding me. That's my number. That's the number of the last ticket that she just handed me because she's out." And he stood up. He's like, "Hey, that's me." And so she runs over there. He runs over there, and she handed him a Night Radiant.
Oh, cool.
Radiant. So she handed him a Night Radiant, which, is a plug and play. And he goes, "Do we have a battery for this?" And I go, "Yeah, I have my 2-cell 2200s with me. I brought them because we were going to use them for lighting, the light sticks that I made. Mm-hmm. We're going to use those for light sticks." And instead they had lights there. They didn't last time, but this time they actually had lights in the tent. They rented a big generator and ran a bunch of lights in there. So we had plenty of light and we brought some halogen lights to plug in. So he ran back to the tent after dinner, and of course it's pitch dark out there, and these couple of guys were flying their timbers, and a couple of guys flying a night fly, and I took my cracked yak.
Oh yeah,
the one that I fly at night. Yeah, I was all excited. I was like, "Oh, I got my cracked yak." Anyway, went all the way out there and realized that I didn't have a propeller.
Oh no!
The O-ring fell off or cracked.
Yeah.
The O-ring fell off of the cracked yak it broke, and the propeller, somewhere got either put out or broke or something, and it was not in the trailer. So I'm not really sure. It's probably in another bag somewhere. And so yeah, I'm walking around a jet event going, "Anybody here have a little propeller? Anybody have an 8.7 propeller? Or maybe a 9.3?"
Yeah, right.
And
they're giving you strange
everybody's
looks.
looking at me like, you're at a jet event, right? Nobody here has propellers. I'm like, well, there you go.
Propellers?
So even the guys that have what?
I said propellers?
Something like that. Anyway, it was pretty funny. So we actually flew the Radon instead, and that was pretty fun because Gary had never flown at night before.
Oh, cool!
And so we turned it on. And it had this weird pattern on it. That's the one that has like 50 patterns, and it'll put you into like
epileptic shock,
epileptic
seizure
because it's so flashy. And I couldn't figure out how to change the lights because it's dark, and I'm feeling around in there, and I'm like, I know there's a button somewhere, And anyway, one of the other guys comes up and goes, "Oh, are you trying to change the lights? It's right here." And he goes, I hear him go click, 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 and then the lights started changing. So I'm like, "Yeah, where is that switch?" And he's like, "It's actually right here at the end of this," because we're in the pitch dark out there. Nobody can see anything. And so anyway, now we're like all blinded by these lights, and we finally found one that kind of pulsed. It kind of was like the all same color, but it would kind of go dim and then change colors to another color and get brighter. And so Gary, I launched it for him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh," he's flying it around going, "Dude, I don't even know which way this thing is going," And so we're laughing, "Hey, turn left, turn right," and these guys in the timber, they're going back and forth, and he's like, "I'm confused." And so anyway, I was like, "Well, here, give it to me." And so anyway, I climbed it up and pulled the power off and glided it around, but it was so much fun. We stayed up giggling and having a good time with all these guys. And then on top of that, we're all standing at the runway edge. All these numbnuts with these e-bikes all jumped on them and came out there and were driving the e-bikes up and down the runway. So they were having like e-bike races because the e-bike has like a little bitty headlight on it. So they're out there while we're flying and they're driving these e-bikes. Anyway, it was a crazy, montage of pilots just having a great time. But we were laughing and having a good time, and probably a couple of adult beverages involved in that whole thing. But nobody got hurt, and no airplanes were destroyed in the process. So, but we did have fun, and so. I guess that brings us to kind of the Saturday deal because that was Thursday night, Friday night. So Saturday night was the big day. Barry was pretty close to getting his airplane finished. Gary and I went and flew. And then we had the awards ceremony that night as well. So at about 7 o'clock when it got dark, Barry just squeezed a flight for his Havoc in. I mean, he just barely got it test flown as the sun was going down.
Well, the best time,
and of course, every year,
the best time to do your test flight, right as it's getting dark, as the sun's getting low on the horizon.
Yeah, but the sun was behind us, and so we still had light. And of course, it's flat out there. You know, you can see for miles. And it wasn't Barry flying; it was the test pilot flying it. The guy that owned it before.
Oh, okay.
So he basically got out there, trimmed it, did all that stuff, and it was still light. I mean, you know, but the sun was starting to set, so it was all behind us. You weren't staring into the sun because, you know, that particular runway where you stand in the morning, it's just you're looking straight into the sun. It's brutal, you know, until it gets about noon, then you're not having to worry about it. But so we went there, and obviously every year they have a charity. I think it's the Children's Home or something, you know, that has to do with kids. And so they have this auction, and the auction, you know, is kind of one of those things that they bring out. They get donations from a lot of people, and the big items are the jets, because they usually have 3 or 4 or 5 jets that have been donated. And there's usually one that's, you know, serious dollars. And this year it was the Rebel Pro. I think it was the Rebel. Anyway, it went for way more than, you know, you could buy it retail for, but it was for the kids. You know, everybody was kind of bidding it up, so it finally got to who it
for the children's.
We were, that's right, the children's. But we were sitting at the table, and this little sparrow came up. And if you're listening to the podcast, I'm in my shop, and the sparrow's sitting behind me. It's not put together or anything; it's just sitting there, but. Jump on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure you'll be able to see it, you know, what the sparrow looks like. And we'll post, I sent a picture out to you. I'll post a picture of what the sparrow is. But it's in a Thunderbird scheme, and it got auctioned off. And I actually threw my name in the hat, you know, for during the auction, because Barry was sitting next to me. He was looking up prices and stuff, you know, going, oh, man, this is a good deal for this one. So, you know, we were bidding on it. And it got kind of out of our price range. We weren't really wanting to pay that much for it. And so anyway, it wound up selling. And then at the end of the auction, the guy basically said, oh my gosh, we sold this one. We auctioned it off, but it's not the one that we thought it was.
Oh,
they thought it was
that's right. They said it was a plug and play. Yeah.
Right. So they were talking a plug and play, which comes with everything, right? The only thing you have to put in is a turbine and a receiver battery, and you're good to go. And if you want a gyro, you can throw that in there too. But this was not. This was a basically an ARF is what they call it. And so anyway, the guy stands up and he says, okay, well, there was a table over here that was bidding. Who were those guys? Well, they were all talking. So I went like this, you know, I pointed to the guy next to me because he was the one bidding on it. So I went, oh, it's him, like that. And I just happened to stick my hand up in the air, and the guy saw it and went, sold.
First time at an auction, huh?
Oh, no. I know, right? It was. I said, no, it's his. And he goes, no, it's yours. And I was like, gosh, dang it.
I'm sure he was
so
like, I don't know this guy. I've never seen him before. I don't even know why he's sitting next to me.
He had already gotten one. He's like, dude, I'm not taking 2, so that one's yours. So anyway, I wound up donating to the children's cause, and you know, brought that thing back home. So it was kind of fun, but I was excited, and it does look good. I mean, I like the color scheme.
Oh yeah,
move out and let you see it. See,
yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
Definitely,
so, yeah. It definitely looks good. It looks like a T1, and it's about a 70-inch wingspan. So it uses the same motor as the F-15 and the L-39. So I could actually fly all 3 of those with that.
See, now that's good. You sort of following my battery principles.
I
don't get a bunch of different jets with different size motors.
No, and that's true. And actually, the Swin motors, we were kind of representing Bad Boys RC. They're here in Phoenix, and if you are looking for turbine type stuff, check them out at badboysrc.com. And anyway, they had given us some shirts and hats and stuff to wear for their Swin turbines, and so we were looking at some of those, and we were flying those. All of us had Swin turbines, and so One of the cool things about their particular setup is that all of the data is on the motor itself, and then you just buy the little ECU that goes in each airplane, and then when you just take the motor out of one and put it in the other, it automatically connects.
Oh.
So the other turbine, everything is all in a package deal, and you have to take everything, the pump, the ECU, the turbine, all that stuff has to come out. But in this one, you just have to pull 2 wires off of it and stick the 2 wires in, or put it in the next airplane and put 2 wires back, and it works fine.
Cool.
So Barry's got a 300 that he flies three or 4 different airplanes with. And, of course, it, adds up hours on the motor a little quicker, but it's very convenient because you don't have to buy.
So it kind of sounds like us when we first started and when receivers were super expensive. So you might have 1 or 2.
Yes.
And you go, oh, I got this new plane. And so you'd have like 3 or 4 planes. You'd be sharing one receiver between all 3 planes and just pulling them out, replugging them in. So
that's
you're
exactly
doing the same thing with your Schwinns. Interesting.
This was a little more than the $50 we were spending on those things.
Scale, scale as you get into it.
Yeah, it is scale. Yeah, that's true. So, but we had a wonderful time, and Sunday morning we got out, and all of us were flying. So we flew for a little bit. Barry got a couple flights in on his, and I flew the L-39. I will tell you that on the other side of that coin, as fun as we had, there were some spectacular crashes.
Ooh, do tell.
Which is very rare.
I thought that's why you go, to see the crashes.
Like NASCAR.
No, you don't want to see that. I mean, you would see it at NASCAR, but NASCAR has teams that support one another. This is an individual that just pumped a boatload of money into that thing and to watch it happen. Yeah. Now, I will bring up this is our safety. What do you call it? The safety moment for the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. I know we're running out of time, but we'll talk a little bit about
Jay. 3 fingers.
It's 3 fingers holding up 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about spotting. What a spotter does.
Okay.
What is a spotter supposed to do?
I think he watched the guy flying the airplane going, wow, that's really cool. You're doing a great job.
Okay, you're a good spotter. Yeah, that's not what you're supposed to do, but yeah, you did. You're a good spotter. Jay, what's the spotter supposed to do?
Well, I would assume that he's looking at other people's airplanes, and he's in awe at their flying, and just wishing that his pilot would be able to fly nearly as good as they could. So, was I supposed to be watching? Where's my plane?
Guys,
oh, crap. I was just watching him. He's doing that fantastic.
Exactly hit the nail on the head of what a spotter's not supposed to do, right? So in Mike's case, he's exactly right. In Jay's case, watching the air show is what we call it. A spotter for any airplane, whether you're at the park or whether you're at a club or whether you're at a rally or wherever, the spotter is responsible for your aircraft. And what they're doing is they're watching your aircraft go through the air to make sure that you are not getting in the way or coming in contact with someone on a trajectory, right? So if you're going downwind, then you tell your guy, just like a spotter at NASCAR would say, okay, you need to stay low. Because you can see the other airplanes. He's just laser focused on his airplane. And when you have an airplane that's moving 150 to 300 miles an hour, you're not looking around. I mean, you're focused on getting this airplane turned around, and you're in a very tight pattern, and you're with 6 other airplanes. So your job is to watch his airplane and just tell him high, low. You're coming, you're behind a guy. This guy went vertical, so stay low. Don't, or go vertical. You can, if he wants to do something, you can say, okay, you can do a loop. You're clear for the loop. And then when it's time to land, they have these paddles, and you call out. You lift this paddle with a number on it. That's your number where you're at. And so the station number for me at that time was like number 3. And so I'm like, okay, 3 is going to a gear pass, and that tells the guys on the starting line to start up. They're in the number 3 slot for startup. They'll start their airplane. We do a gear pass. I call landing, still holding the paddle up, and then he comes around and you watch him land, and then you call clear the runway, drop your paddle, pick up your plane, and go to the pits. So it's a very, coordinated deal, and the spotters are very good at it. And you'll hear everybody that there's 6 pilots and 6 spotters, and we're talking not loud, not really loud, but we're telling our pilot what what he should be doing, right? So he's flying, and he's just doing his thing. If he wants to do a loop or roll or figure eight or whatever, you're watching that and then telling him, okay, peel out high so that you're not in the, everybody's coming around, and you don't want to be in the face of everybody, so just peel out this figure eight high. And so that's kind of what you're doing.
So not to be defensive or anything, but I haven't lost I spotted a lot of planes, and I haven't lost a plane in the air yet. When I'm flying, I have, but not when I've been the spotter.
Right. And that's kudos to you, right? Because you've been watching it and you've been directing your pilot. So, safety tip of the day. We had an incident. There were 4 pilots up, okay? 2 of them were flying sport-type airplanes. One of them had a very what they call a Viper XL. So it was a larger 5th scale Viper jet. He was coming, right through the middle of the downwind, and we had another guy that had the Avante, turbine Avante, and he had gone vertical and was doing a tumble, kind of like what we do with the L-39. We kind of tumble it, and he went upstairs and did a flat spin and everything. And then in the meantime, the wind had shifted. So the guy that came in to land, he said he was landing. His spotter said, "Oh, you're landing downwind." So the Avante spotter turned to the jets, to the Viper jet guy, the spotters. They turned to each other and said, "Hey, should we flip the runway around to let these guys, should we flip it around? Because now we're just the last 3 guys in the air." Well, they both looked at each other to discuss the runway change, which, by the way, is strictly from the starter and the line guy. He's the one that calls which direction. So there's a guy that stands back, that makes sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. He's a safety officer, and so he's the one that determines it. Well, these 2 spotters are looking at each other talking, and the Avante is coming straight down as the Viper jet, and the Avante goes right through the wing of the Viper jet.
Wow. Yuck.
Doing 100+ miles an hour. So the Viper jet he was smoking through there, and it's a big, big airplane. And, the next pilot meeting that next morning, that was something that was brought up, is that, hey, if you're a spotter, never take your eyes off the airplane, because this midair collision was strictly on the shoulders of the 2 spotters who looked away.
That sucks.
And one guy's looking to the left coming across, and the other guy's looking up, so they weren't even paying attention to each other. And it just happened. I mean, it could have been close and nobody would have ever said anything, but it destroyed 2 very, very expensive and very amazing jets. The Viper XL was beautiful, and I think I have a picture of it. I'll have to send it before it lost its life. But the guys weren't happy because it's a lot of money that's now laying on the ground, and the spotters were kind of a little melancholy as well, strictly because they kind of knew that they shouldn't have been talking to each other. They should have been watching what was going on. So, and then Sunday, Barry and I were flying, and our spotters, we came around. I was flying the L-39, and as I came around, there was a guy flying an F-86, and he was going to do a low pass. So he called, low pass, and Barry said, okay, he's going low, so stay mid-level. And right as I came into the turn, I'm looking down the runway, so I can see my airplane and I can see the F-86 because they're in the same space, right? I'm not focused on the F-86, but I can just see them both. And the F-86 hits the ground. And when it hit the ground, it popped back up eye level with me, and made its way towards the pit area where we were all standing.
Oh no!
Wow.
And so the wing had disconnected, so the wing was fluttering. It was like brrr, and he pitched up really hard, so it went over our heads. Well, it's a natural reaction, for any pilot to duck and look to see where that thing is going. In the meantime, I'm flying and my airplane's turning a base to final.
Ooh.
And Barry was diving down. I was like diving down, and then I realized, holy crap! And I look back, and all I'm looking at is the nose cone of my airplane. So it's a profile that's non-existent, right? And luckily for me, I kind of let off of the sticks and let it just kind of come down the runway until I reacquired it. I told Barry, I was like, holy smokes, man. I looked away from that airplane, and then I had to reacquire something that's flying 80, 90 miles an hour. It was a little disappointing for me, too. But as soon as it hit and the guy was, in the emergency situation, I chunked the gear down, flaps down, and I just did a 180-degree turn, came back and landed on the runway so that he could have the whole airspace if he needed it. And he wound up getting control of it and shutting the turbine down and dead sticking it about quarter of a mile down the runway. So
he saved it. That's wild.
But we're not really sure what happened. Yeah, he did save it. We're not really sure what happened, but he pretty much kind of just knocked the wings off and got everything kind of vibrating. So we didn't really go. He wasn't too happy, but beautiful airplane, that just kind of.
Well, that's a terrific story to, for ending our podcast on, dude.
I know, right? So. But we had fun, and yeah, we packed up after that, and we made our way back home. So, and nothing major happened on the way home.
So Barry didn't damage anything. Gary didn't damage anything. You didn't damage anything because you didn't bring anything.
Well, I didn't bring anything, but I was flying, other airplanes.
Well, that's true, but they weren't yours.
I didn't put any of their, No, they weren't mine. But I have to say, I appreciate them letting me fly their equipment. It's, it means a lot. It's one thing to let me fly a park flyer, but it's a whole different deal when you sink a bunch of money into something like that, and you just go, and they just go, oh, here you go. They trust you enough, and they've seen you fly and trust your ability to not, wreck their very expensive toy. So. But it was a great time. I wish you could have been there, and I wish I would have taken a lot more video. It would have been super exciting to see some of those. But, well, that just goes to show you next year you're going to have to come on out. So, but anyway, yeah, if if you have any questions about the Best in the West, reach out to us and send us an email or jump on our Facebook listeners group, and I'll post some pictures up of some of the pictures that I took on there. If you want to see what the Sparrow looks like, jump on the YouTube channel and see if it's back there. So, I don't know. Can you get a good view of it?
Sort of
pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I'm excited about it. It's a sport jet, and I'm more of a military guy. Military jet guy. I kind of like that. But this one with the Thunderbird scheme looks really cool to me.
Yeah.
They had another one that was not in the. They had another one that was in a racing scheme, like a Formula One style race, and it just didn't look as good to me as this one does. This one actually has that kind of that F-16, T1 look. So anyway, well, that pretty much does it for our hour. I feel like I talked the whole time.
You did.
Had a lot to share.
Since Mike and I weren't there.
Fun time. Yeah, no doubt. A special note, though, the Arizona Electric Festival got moved up a week. So it's the first week in February now.
Okay.
There was a conflict. There was a conflict between NASCAR, football, and a couple other things. So
Valentine's Day.
Got moved up. Yeah, Valentine's Day. So I think we had it on Valentine's Day last time. So I think he moved it up this year. We'll have to reach out to.
You can't do that more than once for sure.
Yeah, you could probably get away with it 1 year, but not every year.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, FYI, I think it's in the first weekend in February. So.
All right, well, we'll have to get Shannon on and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll have to get him here. So, you guys going flying this week at all? Or?
No, the wind's going to be, the weather's going to be pretty crap all week. There's a storm blowing through.
No, nothing wrong with that. So, well, from my shop here in Arizona, I'm Michael.
And from the hills of Texas, I'm Jay.
And this is AK Mike in Texas.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.